Well, thank you very much, Craig, and thank you everyone for stopping in. Kevin and Deborah, Eric, Melody, Scott, Karen, Jody, Lisa Marie, Mary, Bill, and of course CJ, the great MC of the world. CJ being an MC. Well, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to start out by saying this, so some people that are watching the recording, they'll probably click off right away. It's like, because man, I got something to share with you guys today that's from my heart, my spirit, my soul, and the title is just going to be simply, who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And let me start this out by saying that a lot of people will probably shut this video off because I'm just going to tell you about a quick story about who I am and how someone that I listened to really affected virtually everything that's ever happened to me. And some of you might go, "Wow, me too," if you thought about it, right? And so from a very young age, all I can remember is just how awful everything was. So the things that I was listening to is my parents arguing, my parents saying awful things about each other, my parents saying awful things about me and my brothers. And it was a really awful, situation. They were both alcoholics. And it got so bad that when the government or the Child Protective Services found out that I was being abused in every way possible, I got taken away from my family. And so the only thing I can really remember listening to is at a very young age, they didn't know how to diagnose that I was dyslexic. But so all they knew back then is that I didn't think like other kids. So back then they called them special, riding the short bus. And I just remember always someone saying, "Where is his dad? Where is his mom?" And kids can be pretty cruel in school. So I was always being picked on. And I always got in trouble because they always set me, and I always was with the other special needs kids. And I wouldn't defend myself, but if someone teased them or did anything to them, I would just go into this rage, and that usually wasn't very good for the other person. And so, going from foster home to foster home to foster home and constantly being hearing this chatter all the time about, I was one of two white kids on an Indian reservation. And there was one guy that looked at me. His name was Chum Ledoux, and he was a native Indian in Trent, North Dakota. And he goes, "I'm looking for a good worker." He says, "Are you a good worker?" And I said, "I can learn." And I started working for him, and he was very complimentary to me. Um, Always told me that I did a good job, always was saying nice things about me. And so up to that point, I never had anyone ever say anything really nice about me. And because he did, along with another man that was his brother, Ted Johnstone, what incredible men. Um, they would encourage me, and they would tell me that if I did ABC, I would get this. And it was the first time that I ever heard words that if I would willing to go the extra mile and do more than I got paid for, that I would be rewarded for that. And it was a story that just recently hit me because I shared with everyone that I found a picture, and it was me riding a bareback at 16 years of age. Because I remember going to Chum and saying, "Hey, listen, do you know of some ways I can make some money?" Now, to be brutally honest, I was working for him. He didn't pay me any money. So it was like, hey, you're part of the foster kids here. This is how you earn your keeps. I don't know how many people still know people that actually got no money for doing chores because that's what you were supposed to do, right? Everybody pitches in, right? And And that's when he told me, he said, listen, I'll pay your entry fee, but if you ride in the rodeo and you place, then that's the money you're going to get paid. So that was really the very first thing that sort of got me there. And then now I'm out there, and it's funny, I really, really, because I wasn't around the right people in my later years, like 17, 18 years of age, it was like now I'm hanging around with the wrong people, the really wrong people. So if someone asked my address, that would be on the wrong side of the tracks. That's where the poor hang out. And what was weird about that area is that it seemed like all the kids were outside after dark. So for some of you that want to categorize who I was, the kids that had to be home when the street lights came on, I wasn't one of those kids because my parents didn't give a shit, right? And I didn't want to be around them because that was just a lot of ugliness, right? So being around the wrong people, I got to hear that, that the wealthy people lived on Snob Hill. And who could possibly take care of a home that big, take care of a yard that big? And so they had all these cards and they had these big homes and they had everything. And so because I didn't have any money, I listened to individuals that told me, listen, these wealthy people also have insurance. So if you take their stuff, they can file it for insurance and get a new one. It's sort of, common sense, and then there's street sense. So I got to hang around a bunch of people that basically were good at taking what they wanted. A nice definition of that is just called stealing, right? And I've always looked at myself as being very, very smart and a good study. So I never got caught. And so then I got transferred to another school when I was 18, and I was trying to fit in, and everyone was talking about having a school party. And my mind instantly, like an average person's head would do, wrong, is we need alcohol for this party. So why don't I just break into a warehouse and steal the beer? So when I broke into a warehouse, there was only semi trucks in it, and the semi trucks were filled all the way up. So my second thought is, well, this is simple. Pull the visors down. There's the keys. So I'll just back this semi truck out and take it to a place and empty it for the high school party. Now, I know a lot of you right now are going, Robert, that's not how an average person thinks. I never thought that. I never did that. And if I thought of that, I was too scared to do that. Well, I had been doing this for years, right? And I was getting that same kind of praise and recognition because back in those days, I had a Vega with a V8 in it. I drag raced it. All the kids thought I was cool because I had this car. But I don't think anybody ever thought, what does he do to make the money to build that car? I don't know why anybody didn't ever put two and two together. And I worked at the movie theater and I did work, but it's like, no way did I make enough money to be able to build that car. All right. And so in a blink of an eye, I don't realize that, the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms comes into the city. Because when I took a semi truck full of beer, that's not a local thing that a city deals with. That's federal. And so as soon as the federal guys come in, I remember this guy saying this is simple to me. And he says, hey, you ever seen this after they arrested me? He said, do you ever notice this on a can in the bottle? And I said, no. And he says, see that blue writing? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you know that's tracked to every six pack, that's tracked to every case, that's tracked to every pallet, that's tracked to every semi? So when we raided your party, everything in there came from this truck. And so you're contributing to minors, grand theft auto, breaking and entering, and transporting alcohol across state lines. It was 5 Class C felonies, each punishable to 5 years. And so they wanted me to, they did a plea agreement with me if I told them who helped me move 700 cases of beer. And I said that I did it all by myself, which was a lie. Of course, I called some friends. And because I wouldn't cooperate, I got sentenced to 5 years in a federal penitentiary. Now, I'm saying all this stuff to you only because when I look back at my life up to that point, it was me listening to two individuals. One is people that I shouldn't have been listening to, and the other one was me listening to myself. So this was one of the favorite quotes I still have to this day, is we cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So if you were to talk to me, if you would have visited me, 18 years old, in a federal penitentiary, if you would have talked to me, I would tell you that I had bad parents. I had bad foster homes. Kids picked on me. I have a learning disability. That life is not fair for people like me. Are you listening to me? This is not my fault. This is not my fault. As far as my belief in a higher power at that time, I knew of one. But they sure wasn't taking care of me. I mean, how could a God or Jesus, why could they allow all this stuff to happen to me? So even when I believed the best points at times, I just felt like I was so unworthy and unloved and abandoned that maybe there is a God, but because of all the stuff that I did wrong, how awful of a person that I was, that, that you just, I don't count. I'm not a part of that. And I don't know where I got those ideas. That was just my ideas. Do you guys know of any people like that? And so this really came up yesterday from us doing breakthroughs. I shared with you guys, and you'll have to watch it, but I shared with breakthroughs how I stay in the right energy, in the right place now. And then it hit me. It's like I shared with you guys last night, it's like the majority of the people on the planet don't have that. No one ever told them that. So I was sharing this with Craig. I woke up this morning, went through my routine, full of joy, full of happiness, just, and, I did turn on the TV, and, I see this 22-year-old kid that killed this, Charlie Kirk. And I seen some stuff online about him. And there's a video online where he's reading a letter because of his 4.0 grade average that he got a scholarship to go to college. And so is dad 25 years, and a sheriff, or they've come from a Washington City, I believe, in Washington County in Utah. It's over by the corner, like 3 hours away. And his mom's a counselor. And it's like, Everyone that knew this kid just said he was sweet, he was special. I mean, how many of you know that you can't play around to get a 4.0 average? That's serious. Wins a scholarship and then went to college. And he started listening to the wrong people. That's all that happened is he went there and he started listening to the wrong people. And I seen a post today. I was telling Craig about this. And please don't read into this because I want to get to this the end of this. But whether you like this guy or not, both of them. The one thing that I do pray now for is I hope that this Taylor Richardson or whatever his name is, I hope that he holds it together enough to be able to tell people why he did what he did. So people can really, really listen to why he believed this person that he killed and assassinated was a racist, a fascist, an evil person, someone that deserved to be killed. I'm trying to think in my mind. There's a lot of awful people on the planet right now, but I don't think about assassinating them, and I don't wish they were dead. So I think different because I listen to different people, right? And so I seen this post, and it was a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and it was a picture of JFK. You know what I mean? And then there was a picture of MLK, Martin Luther King, and then there was a picture of Jesus, and then there was a picture of this Charles Kirk, and all it said underneath there is these people all died because of their words. It's like I don't understand that. But I'm 63 years old and I constantly see people using words that are just so hateful and so awful. And me and Craig were just talking about this, and it's like, when I say, who are you listening to? It's like the majority of people think about others based on what others say about them. And I'm like, wow. So you guys know why I'm so passionate about how do you know that, right? So going back to my story really, really quickly. So now I'm in a place where I'm locked up in a cell all by myself. The only thing I got is an orange pair of coveralls. They don't give you underwear or nothing. And I'm in this little thing, and I find out later that it's called the fish tank. And what they do is they put brand new prisoners in there because you possibly could be on like a little bit of a suicide watch. It's like everything was great, and now I'm supposed to, serve 5 years here in a cell by myself. And it got worse because no one talked to me except a guard would go by and count me. And they brought me 3 meals a day. And I seen one guy, mopping. Do you guys realize that penitentiaries don't do this anymore? Because it's called cruel and unusual punishment. So all I thought about is what the hell did I do that I guess I don't get to talk to anybody? I get to just stay in this cell. They bring my 3 meals. Every time I tried to talk to a guard, he would never answer me. Every time the guy that mopped the floors, I'd say hi, he wouldn't say hi. And I'm just going, I did something so awful that I get years in a cell by myself with no one to talk to. So again, no one said this to me, but I came up with thoughts in my mind that I just couldn't live like that anymore. Now my thoughts are not very positive. They're thoughts of how I can end my life. Because I can't imagine being in this cell that long. And all of a sudden, the guy that was mopping the floor walked by and he threw a Gideon New Red Testament into my cell. And that guy doesn't know he saved my life. He has no idea. And I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just telling you, being dyslexic, that I went through that little Red Testament. And now I got to listen to someone else. And this person told me that I was okay. They told me that I was a miracle. They told me that they loved me. They told me I wasn't alone. There was a lot of promises that I read in that book. And I'm not a scholar of the Bible, but I do know the promises he said to me. And so then I immediately imagined in prison, they call it two different things. It's either bad time or good time. Bad time is when it's everyone's fault and it's not your fault that, oh, well, this happened to me, blame game, victim, blaming everything. And so you're stuck there, but it's bad time because it's everyone's fault but your own. You guys know any people like that? All right. But then I figured out that there's good time. And good time was me every single day believing and imagining the life that I was going to have when I get the hell out of here. So now all my thoughts were digging into this, New Testament, reading the promises, and being in an imagination that today is going to be a different day for the rest of my life. And as soon as I did that, I immediately took personal responsibility for everything I ever done. All of a sudden, I turned into this person that is like I had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame for the people that I hurt. I found this thing called love and compassion and empathy for other people. Prior to that, it was just about my survival. And I no longer made excuses for the life I had. All of a sudden, my life turned in a blink of an eye. It went to, why did this all happen to me? To, oh my God, this stuff happened to me. That I looked at my whole entire life, that prison cell got my attention and it made me humble myself and surrender myself. I don't know if I would have been the kind of person that would have been open to understanding anything about the New Testament and the Bible prior to that. Does anybody get me? It's like when you think you're the deal and you got it going on and it's all about you and you know everything, that's called being closed-minded. Now, there's only one viewpoint. That's your viewpoint. And you usually can hear it in someone's voices in their speech because they're usually always talking about them. If you hear the words, it's always like, well, this happened to me and why I can't do this. And, they're stopping to do this. And why hasn't someone taken care of me? And you'll notice that they're the center of their universe. And how do I know that? Because I was that guy. I had a thought in my head that when I met people, I would use them. Because it was just a matter of time when they found out who I am that they were going to use me. So why not get up on them first? So then when they do something bad to me, we're even. Listen to me, you guys. It's like, again, it's who I'm listening to. So now all of a sudden, as soon as I put those thoughts in, all of a sudden I'm let out into the public. Not the public. I forget what they call it. I'm allowed to be around other prisoners. A counselor said to me, "Are you willing to work?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." I started out working in the bakery. Then I ended up working, wait a minute, in the mechanic shop, fixing all the farm equipment. Why? Because they asked me what I knew how to do. Now I'm welding and I'm building things and I'm fixing things. And this is all the stuff that I started doing right before I went in there. And then this guy says, there's a college called the North Dakota State School of Science. It's a #1 tech school in the United States. I was like, why are you telling me this? And he says, we're doing a new plan where the professor is actually going to bring in a semi truck, a double sized semi truck that they hook together. And they're looking for students that would be interested in wanting to get a degree in mechanics. I finished 2 semesters of my degree in the penitentiary. All of a sudden, I felt this. I felt like I was the luckiest freaking person in the world. The universe and these promises that I believe in, they started happening in my life. It was like little miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. So then I get called into the parole board. I'm in for 6 months. And I go in, and there was 3 guys and 1 girl, 1 lady. And she said to me, she said, "Mr. Hollis." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "What judge would put an 18-year-old in prison for their first offense?" And I said, "Judge Bede from Williams County." And she said, "Why are you in here?" And I said, "I listened to the wrong people." I said, "This is my fault. I listened to the wrong people. I take 100% responsibility, and I'm very, very sorry." Do you guys know why they let people out of prison? It's because they admit that they did something wrong, that they're not blaming everything else. And she goes, "What are you going to do when you get out of here?" I said, "I'm going to the North Dakota State School of Science. It doesn't make a difference if I get out in 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. That's when my life will start over." And she says, "Okay." I went out there. I wasn't even out there 20 minutes. And I came out and she said, "You can enroll in college in the fall." And I was like, I just got here. So they cut my prison sentence, which they don't do in federal penitentiaries. And I spent just a little over a year there. Then I enrolled and I was on the dean list at the North Dakota State School of Science. Graduated top of my class. And while I was in there was a professor, Professor Don Bitts. And he walked up to me and he goes, "I seen you pull in the parking lot. Is that your car?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he's like, what motor's in it?" And I said, "Oh, it's probably about 650 horse, small block 350 engine." And he goes, "What kind of transmission?" I said, "It's power glide." He goes, "How'd you get the rear end in there?" I said, we cut the axles off it, put new axles in it, cut the housing. He goes, you built that car? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, why are you in college? I said, well, one of my uncles that shows up every couple of years, one day he looked at me and he said, man, you're pretty good with your hands. And so he was another person that said that I was good with my hands. So that's when I leaned into it. That's when I built a car. That's when I worked on race teams. And then I said I listened to the wrong people, and I already got my first two semesters done in the North Dakota State Federal Penitentiary. And he goes, you're married. I said, yeah. He goes, when did you get married? I said, 9 months ago. He goes, is your wife and kid here? And I said, yes, sir. He says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a mechanic do you want to be? I said, I want to be number one. And he says, I'll help you. And he was the one that told me how to study for the master automotive technician courses. He goes, Robert, none of this means anything. You won't use any of this when you leave here. But he says, I promise you, if you get this certificate, every automotive place in the world will hire you. And he says, I want to help you. I said, thank you. So when I graduated from college, I had 72 job offers. And one of them was Penske Motorsports in California. They paid, they paid for everything. They paid for my moving expenses, everything. And when I showed up there, he goes, do you have your plaque? And I said, yeah. And I showed it to him. And he said, I got to show you something. And he walked up out there and there was like 30 plaques on the wall. And they were blue and silver. And he says, the blue ones mean that you're qualified in one of the eight or two of the eight. You see, Sid, to see the silver ones? And I said, yeah. He goes, that means they have certification in all eight. He goes, what makes yours different than those? I said, it's gold. And he says, yeah, you're a master automotive technician. That means you scored above 90 percentile on all eight. Did you guys know that he taught me how to study for the test? And I took the test and I didn't even know what a gold one meant. And so I'm brand new there, and that gold plaque went to the top of the pile. And it's all because I started listening to the right people. And I started learning that if I listened to people that had fruit, if I listened to people that by your fruit you shall know them, I knew that if I listened to people that had documentation, that all of a sudden my life went whip, 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 whip. It went from, and the other one that I didn't know at the time, but I always was one of those extra mile people. Even when I was in the Darth Vader category instead of the Luke Skywalker category, right? And so now everything is going awesome. And then in a blink of an eye, my son's 18 months old. And my wife says to me, I don't want to be married anymore. And I said, well, you're not taking my son. And she goes, I don't want him. And she abandoned me and my son. Now, prior to this, her parents were super, 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 super strict. So she went from there to living with me and being my wife. So I found out later that I was her way out. She also knew me because I was the bad kid. I got written up in Williston Herald as the world's biggest bear bust, right? So I'm very I tell people I dated three girls and I married two of them. You know what I mean? So they were definitely approaching me. I'm not approaching them. And so I she all of a sudden decided that she wanted to work, and so she worked nights at Target. And all of a sudden, she's never been on her own. And so all of a sudden, she's partying and she's just not coming home. So I look back at that and I just know that she was listening to the wrong people. Well, why should she be a wife and a mother? Are you kidding me? These are the best years of her life. 20 years old. All right. So now we moved to Billings. That's where I met Terry, right? And so everything is really starting to go pretty awesome, right? And then I get hurt on my job. Well, as soon as I get hurt on my job and have a doctor tell me, oh my God, is the whole theme of this whole entire thing about listening to the wrong and the right fucking people? By the way, if I apologize for if I offended you with the F word. I it's just how I feel. But I apologize if it offended you. Um, so I get hurt. The doctor says, "Oh my God, are you a mechanic?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Not anymore." And he had his hand on my knee. My knee got hyperextended. I tried to stop a van from falling off a hoist, and it almost amputated my leg. And so now the only thing that I know how to do is be a mechanic. My dreams and is to be a crew chief. My identity was not only was I a good mechanic, but I was a really, really good mechanic. So my whole identity is what I've been building for years, right? And that's who I am at a whopping age of 27. I got, what, 7 years invested in this career. It's all I know. It's only my identity. And I had a guy with a white suit on say that you're not going to be a mechanic anymore. Now, it really devastated me. But again, something happened for me, not to me. It happened for me, not to me. So now I start listening too much of myself again. And you know what? That little red book that got thrown to me, my life is going awesome. I sure in the hell don't need to read that anymore. Why should that shouldn't even be part of my routine? I got everything out of it. Look at my life. Everything's going awesome. And now all of a sudden I got to just listen to myself. So when I had one knee surgery, it was bad enough, but then when they did the MRI and had to do the second one, now all of a sudden I'm 9 months without any income. I'm in debt. I got a pawn loan on my car. The repo man's checking me out. I get my electricity shut off. I'm getting 10-day pay or quit notices. And my life got so bad that I called up my ex-wife and asked her if she would please watch her son because I just can't take care of him. And then the love of my life, I told her that I wasn't worthy of her, so I sent her back to Montana. So now I'm by myself. Do any of you, when things get really, really bad, do any of you know people that isolate themselves? Okay. That's what I was doing. And now who am I listening to? Myself. I bring this up again. So now I don't understand. Wow, I've been here before. You think you would get it right away. Now it's like, God, why would you do this to me? I thought I was doing everything right. My life is working. Now it's not. It's like, what am I going to do? I should have asked for help as soon as it happened. If I could have thought, as soon as the doctor said, you're not a mechanic anymore, I should have just went, okay, where are we going? What do you got for me? You shut that door. Where's the other one? Where's the window? Where's the door? No, I don't need any help. I'll figure this out. So then when I finally asked for help, as in my book, a guy I met a couple of times at a picnic reached up and called me. His name is Sean. And Sean said, hey, listen, I met this guy. I seen his check. It was $62,000. And he's looking for people to train that want to make six figures a year. And I went, I got a cast on my leg. I want to meet this guy. And when I met him, was I skeptical? Oh my God, you guys. I don't know how I can explain how closed-minded and egotistical that I was. There's, EGO stands for edging God out. I was the smartest guy on the planet. If you didn't believe me, just ask me. I'm 27 years old. I have no electricity. I'm about ready to get kicked out of my apartment. If the repo man can find the car, he's taking it. And my ego couldn't have been higher. Do you guys know people like this? You look at their life, and it's like there's not one part of your life that I think you should be fucking proud of. I messed up again. Sorry. It's like, so I went in there with a chip on my shoulder. Then I watched this presentation on a videotape, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting excited. It's like, this totally makes sense. Ralph Nader's talking about all the water in the world and in every major city in the United States is awful. And they have a system that makes the water better for families. Never even seen a water filter before. Everyone's going to buy one of these. That's crazy. But then I wouldn't show that part of me. Have any of you listened to something and gotten excited, but then you're not going to act like you're excited? You know what I mean? It's like, well, I can find something wrong with this, And so I said to him, Sean said that you showed him a check. Do you got that check? Can I see it? He goes, absolutely. He was really, really, really nice. His name was Bill Gould. And he showed me the check, and it was in an envelope. He pulled it out of his briefcase. I opened it up. Said a company with a heart, National Safety Associates. And it was 62,000 something. It is pretty funny to this date. I didn't see any other numbers. I just seen the two in front of the comma. And it was attached to the stub. And all I said to him was two questions. Why haven't you cashed the check yet? He goes, well, I don't know anything because my mentor taught me. And he told me that I couldn't cash this check until I get the next one. And the company only pays once a month. And I said, so you don't cash the check so you can show people like me that's real. He goes, you're pretty smart. And when he said that, I could tell that he wasn't saying it to just convince me. He said, Sean said, and some of you are hearing this for the first time, Sean said that you worked for Roger Penske. And I said, yes, sir, I did. He goes, you're not an auto mechanic. I go, what do you mean? He goes, if you work on race cars, you're more than an auto mechanic. And I said, well, I'm an ASC, Master Automotive Technician, automotive engineer. Yeah, I guess I'm okay. And then I didn't even realize that he said this. He goes, how long has your leg been in a cast? I said, well, I've had 2 surgeries. He goes, what do they pay on workman's comp now? I go, 900 bucks. He goes, you've been making 900 bucks for 9 months? I said, yes, sir. He goes, have you lost everything? Yeah. Yeah. And I said, I got another question for you. He goes, go. I go, what'd you do before this? He goes, I worked at a tire shop. That's why I asked what you did. There was people that made 5 times more money than I did, and they were mechanics. And I went, wow. He goes, Robert, if you being a mechanic and a master automotive technician, listen, everyone, he goes, you're going to crush this. He said, you're going to make so much money. And I go, why do you say that? And he goes, because once you figure it out, you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. He goes, there's only one way to do a brake job. Now you just got to get more effective at doing the sequence the way you need to do it. So if you do brake jobs faster than anybody else, you're going to make more money than everybody else. And I go, so why is that important? And he goes, most people come in here and they see what I'm doing and they want to do everything but what I do. They're uncoachable. They think that they're smart. I was just too broke when I met my mentor that I just did what he did and I got what he got. And I went, awesome. And then he said to me, he said, what if I endorse this check over to you? I said, what? He said, what if I signed the back of it and I give you the $62,000? What would you do with it? And this is when he started working on my emotions and my imagination. And I said, well, I turn my lights on. I pay my bills down. I pay off my, the loan on my car. And then he said, every time I said something I would do, he would say, how would that make you feel? And I go, that would make me feel amazing. And he goes, now you just spent a little bit of it. What are you going to do with the rest of it? And I said, I want to buy an engagement ring and fly to Montana and ask my girlfriend if she'll marry me. He goes, how would that make you feel? And I don't even know this guy. And I considered myself one of those people that everybody said, if you cry, you're weak. Men don't cry. And I lost it. I lost it. I missed her. I missed her so much. I missed my son so much. I just wanted to put my family back together. And he goes, Robert, if you do exactly what I tell you to do, he says, you'll be able to do all of that in less than 30 days. He said, when you watch that video, did any of it make sense to you? I said, yeah, it all made sense to me. And he goes, great, it'll make sense to other people. So I need you to get 70 people to watch that video in the next 30 days. And me and Eric were going back and forth. And I always think that this is always hilarious when people say, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but I don't know why people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So then what you do is you turn that inward, and you listen to yourself and you go, I got to be doing something wrong. I'm saying the wrong thing. I'm doing something wrong because I introduced this to X amount of people and none of them decided to click on the link and join me. No, you didn't go through enough people. That's all it is. I don't know how many people you got to share with before one person says, yeah, me. But my mentor was smart enough to say that I had to get 72 people to watch that video. I then got my cockiness came back and I just said, listen, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to track you down and kick your ass. He goes, I deserve it. And I said, great. So in the next, they only paid at the end of every month. And so I got in the company in the middle of the month. So it was actually 45 days. But the 70 people that I put in front of the video, 11 of them got in. And out of the 11 that got in and started duplicating, six of them started duplicating what I was doing. And my first check was $10,210. And I was a millionaire before the age of 30 because I listened to somebody else that was documented. Documentation beats conversation. And when I looked at him, I said, "Do you guys know what?" He didn't tell me a script, nothing. He just say as little as possible to as many people as you can, as fast as you can. Because Robert, you're not a salesperson. You're sorting. You're sorting and trying to find the right people, like going through a bucket of apples. If you pick up an apple and it's rotten, what do you do with it? You throw it away. If you pick an apple and it's green and it's not ripe yet, throw it away. If you pick up an apple and it's damaged, throw it away. We're looking for good apples. Got to go through a lot of apples. I was going, I got it. I got it. So then that's exactly what I taught other people. And so the next month, six of those 11 people made over 10 grand. And now, right before that happened, he looked at me and he said, Robert, I got a question for you. I said, yes, sir. He said, if I told you to do an assignment, would you do it? He didn't even live in the same city as I lived in. You know, he was in San Diego. I was up in LA, you know, California. And he goes, listen, he says, and getting to know you a little bit, and I hope you're not offended. He said, you got some pretty stinking thinking. He says, you got some thoughts that you need to change. I said, I don't doubt that at all. And he said, great. Would you go to the store, stop by a bookstore? Do you guys know I've never ever bought a book? 27 years old. What the hell would I buy a book for? You know what I mean? And he said, listen, I want you to go to the bookstore and I want you to pick up The Greatest Miracle in the World. This actual old book came from Mary. Thank you, Mary. And he said, I want you to read this book and then get back to me. And I said, when I leave here, I'll go get it. I said, I don't know how long it'll take me to read it, but I'll reach out to you. And when I read that book, I was trying to think. There's probably only two other times that I have cried that hard for that long. Because when I read this book, all the awful thoughts that I have about myself disappeared. I knew I was a miracle. I knew that I could do anything because I had help from my creator. And I knew that my creator wouldn't give me an imagination without the skills and the availability to pull it off. How, got to say this correct. How would someone give you an imagination that you could emotionally get attached to so that you could experience it in your imagination and then not give you the ability to make it happen? It's not the God I serve. So that's when I start realizing that if it was just me, I was talking to Eric today, and me and Eric were going back and forth, and not to get off subject, but me and Eric were, for those that are believers, it says that you're supposed to go to the ends of the world to speak the good news. That every day I just try to find people that don't know how much they're loved and how special and unique they are. And so from the time that happened, I've never gotten up in the morning going, I wonder what I should do today. That's like the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. You get introduced to people that have wisdom and they share that wisdom to you, and everything in your life changes, and you just want to keep that shit to yourself. So, all I've done since I got exposed to this wisdom is every single day I reach out and try to find other people that are not thinking the right way, that are listening to the wrong people, because I need them to listen to other people. Um, Years ago, this is on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to read it to you because that's what got us this plaque. Because when you write out your goals or write out your imagination, this is the philosophy that's changed my life, is to achieve real, lasting, powerful results to completely transform the quality of your life now and forever. You must adapt new ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. You need to listen to new voices. You must ask new questions. You must put yourself into new states of thinking and feeling. You must take new actions, get new results, and therefore gain new perspectives. So, bottom line is you're only listening to two things. You're either listening to your own thoughts, and for some of you, if you look at your life, can you please do me a huge favor and stop listening to yourself? Just stop it. Because the thoughts, the beliefs, and the things that you have are going to keep you exactly where you are if you do not change them. For those of you that claim that you're a Christian or claim that you're a believer, then if you're not reading what they say to do and how to believe, then how can you confess? What if I said this to you guys? I'm a Christian, but all the stuff that they say is not what I do. Let's change it. What do you do for a living? I'm a mechanic. Do you work on cars? Yeah, yeah, yay. Because I'm a mechanic. Of course I work on cars. And there's people out there right now going, I'm a Christian. Yeah, but you just don't do anything that you're supposed to do. I'm a Jew. I'm a Muslim. So we know that there's bad people in every belief out there. Why would bad people be in every belief out there? It's who they're listening to. So the majority of the people on the planet are listening to other people that are telling them what that belief stands for. There's people out there that say, if you don't believe exactly like me, you deserve to die. That's not the belief. If you don't think the way I think, you need to be judged. It's not there. It's like you got to love yourself and you got to love others. The only way to greatness is the service of others. And everybody's going, no, wait a minute, wait a minute. The school system taught me it's all about me. You're listening to the wrong people. How is that working in your life? If it's all about you and it's only about you, that's why things are not working. But if you got up every day, all day, not looking for anything in return, and all you did was find a way to take wisdom that was here before us and share it with other people so they can change what they think about themselves. Once they change what they think about themselves, they're going to change the way they think about the world. They're going to change the way they think about people. And I love this thing that I'll close out with is that there's all these people in the world right now is going, the world needs to change. I agree. How does it change? It starts with you. Because when you can change who you are and the way that you come to the world, it will change your family. It will change your group of people that you surround yourself with. And when you can change that family unit, then because of the internet, you can change the community. That's what unlimited wisdom is. It just allows you to be in a community with a lot of other people that want to spend a majority of time thinking about what they could do for others, how we can help others. And when your mind goes, well, I don't want to help others, I want to help me. That's where you got to have new philosophies, new ways of thinking, new ways of acting. When I figured this out, I just gave it a year. So I was told that, hey, I read The Science of Getting Rich, and it said you got to come out with an audacious goal. You got to come up with the biggest goal in the world. And so this is the one I came up with. I'm going to try to outgive God. I couldn't think of anything bigger. And of course, Dino, my little voices in my head come out and they go, that's impossible. And I thought, man, why not try? Why not try every day? And one day, my imagination is I'm standing in front of my creator, and he simply just asks the question because he does. It's all about free will. And he's like, hey, Robert, what did you do to deserve to go into the kingdom? And as soon as he says that, I just want millions of people already up there going, let him in. Let that guy in. And I want him to smile, and I want to shrug my shoulders. And he looks at me and he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You already knew what you needed to do. And so with all the craziness happening in the world, I just wanted to do a video and tell you guys my personal story of people that fed into me, people that said the right things, where the words documentation beats conversation came from, is my mentor saying to me, Robert, do not listen to anybody that won't show you their documentation. Because he knew the better that I got, that there would be other companies out there and other people that would try to pull me away from him. And so when I showed up to meetings, I would tell people, hey, listen, before we do the meeting, can we both stop at an ATM machine? And they go, why? You need money? And I go, no, I want you to pull a balance on your account. I'll pull a balance on my account. And then we'll trade the pieces of paper to see who should be listening to who. My mentor was always about how big is your stack? So he ingrained that into me, that the only people that I should listen to are people that are making a bigger impact than me. Man, if people just did that. No, we have the internet and everyone's got an opinion, so everyone gets to listen to everybody. So then when someone challenges, how do you know that? That's when you get people stuttering. Well, that doesn't make a difference. Everyone's got the fastest growing company with the most successful owner, with the best compensation plan and the best products. It's bullshit. It's not legal for me to show you my back office. Ladies and gentlemen, stop listening to people that are not documented. Stop it. Well, what do I do then? Take the time to find people that are documented. Seek and you shall find. Me? I just went to successful people and asked them what their favorite books were. So once I met my mentor, I found out that his mentor was Jim Rohn. So then I dug into all of Jim Rohn's stuff. His last name is Rohn. I heard that he learned from Earl Schoff. And I learned that, that Earl Schoff learned from a guy named Rich Snackenberger. He would probably be considered the founder of marketing. So I just listen to the most documented people, and they just keep making this thing simpler when everybody else is trying to make it more complicated. So how many of you feel like you got something out of this? Okay? Because right now, Kevin, you can raise your hand later. That's the problem with having your camera on. Um, I just want to share with every one of you right now is that regardless of what you're hearing on social media and hearing on the news, regardless of who's saying it, wouldn't you simply just want to ask yourself, how do I know what I'm hearing is actually fact? I've never seen so much compressed stuff of misinformation in the shortest amount of time, I think, in my entire life. It's like the amount of experts out there are just like dumbfounding to me. And it's like people are sharing information with people and posting stuff on social media. And it's like the world doesn't even care that you can roll back 2 days and see that everything that they said is total bullshit. We live in a world where live time, you guys can see that people they do not have the right info. And I used to be the kind of person that when I listened to it, I wouldn't check out if it was real. And then I would share it with others. I don't do that anymore. Then there was a time where I'd listen to the information and I would do my best to find the research to see if it was true. I don't do that anymore. Now I'm too focused on each and every day to allow nothing to distract me from serving other people. I don't have time to be distracted because I don't need information that I would no longer share with anyone because I don't know it's true. Because I don't have the time to do the research to see if it's true. Now I'm just focused on serving others, making other people feel good. If there's anything that I could share with each and every one of you, when you hear a piece of information, if you would just ask yourself, how did this piece of information make me feel? And if it didn't make you feel good, loved, optimistic of the future, then I would ask you to stop listening to those voices. Because there's a crazy delusional people like me in the world, a lot of them that are a part of unlimited wisdom. I'd rather die tomorrow being delusionally happy, providing for my family, giving them the most incredible experiences that took their breath away. I'd rather die tomorrow making an impact on a certain group of people instead of taking people down. So I'm just going to stay delusional and just believe with everything in my heart and soul that I can spread the good news to every person on the planet. Do my very, very best to tell them that there's different things to think, different ways to have a different perspective. Heck, I don't even mind telling them that I'd love to teach you how to be delusional. That you actually were created to be able to imagine and turn that imagination into your reality while everybody's still saying you're delusional. So the stuff I got shared 38 years ago immediately stopped me from ever, ever, ever worrying about money again, to never having a job, to be total free and all my family's free, to be able to travel the world, to be able to give millions to orphans and charity. My delusion and new people that I follow and listen to has allowed me to have a life that's always bigger than what I imagined. And God's not a discerner of persons, which means if this wisdom and knowledge work for me, it'll work for you. And as I say that, if your mind, spirit, and soul goes, this is bullshit, you've just been listening to the wrong people. So, in closing, I know for a fact that I stole something from each and every one of you that watched today. I took something away from you that you'll never ever get. You'll never get back. If you're watching this recording, I apologize that I took something from you that you'll never ever ever get back. You'll never be able to ever say again that you didn't have a chance. You'll never be able to say again that you didn't have a person that cared for you or a group of people that cared for you, that want to be there to help you, to listen to the right voices, the right perspectives. You'll never be able to tell anybody ever again that I never had a shot. The same kind of video I did to Corky. You've seen Corky down there, Corky Santa. And I was able to share to him that he needed to focus on making a difference. And now he has over 3 million followers on TikTok. You got Melody here with the pink cat, 55. She's 55 stands for, she was number 55 of people that I've helped make over $1 million. Money isn't everything, but it's pretty close to oxygen. You know, if money was out of your way, people don't wait in line for hours and every week buy or every day buy a lottery ticket because they know if they can get money out of the way, they can get to the rest of their lives. So, thank you for watching. I believe in you. If no one's giving you permission to be fulfilled and loved and successful, let me give you that permission. My mentors did that to me. So I love you and talk to you soon and see you in the group of Unlimited Wisdom. We're here to serve you. Bye for now. I love you.